Now releasing all goblins.
Hey gang! Using the promo code MTGMudsta, all caps, will get you 10% off any order over $10 at Flipside Gaming. It'll also get you 10% off any orders of singles at Multizone. And it'll get you 10% off most products at Original Magic Art, with the exceptions of some paintings. If these fine sites don't have what you're looking for, you can also consider using my affiliate link when ordering from TCG Player. And if you'd like to join the generic Goblin Gang to support this channel, there's a link to my Patreon in the description below. Hey gang, and welcome back. A lot of you have been asking for me to play Krenko again, and I'm happy to oblige. My opener consists of Price of Glory, 3 Snow-Covered Mountains, Chaos Warp, Dragon Fodder, and Beetleback Chief. Eric is back, bringing his Scorpion God deck, keeping a Mind Stone, a Falkenrath Knight, a Swamp, Burnished Heart, Blasphemous Act, Bojuka Bog, and Rogue's Passage. Tommy is playing Yawgmoth, keeping Dictate of Erebos, Crumbling Ashes, Nyx Lotus, Balthor the Defiled, Deathrender, and 2 Swamps. Christia is playing Anje Falkenrath, keeping Buried Alive, Cathartic Reunion, Mountain, Swamp, Command the Dreadhorde, and Psychosis Crawler. Christian wins the die roll and starts us off. Christian plays a Mountain. Eric plays a Swamp. I play a Snow-Covered Mountain. Tommy plays a Swamp. Christian plays a Swamp as well, and he casts Cathartic Reunion, pitching 2 and then drawing 3. Eric plays a Rogue's Passage and taps out for Mind Stone. I play a Snow-Covered Mountain and cast Dragon Fodder, making 2 Goblin tokens. Tommy plays a Buried Ruin and casts his Crumbling Ashes. Christian casts Faithless Looting, drawing 2 and discarding 2. He plays a Mountain and casts Knight's Whisper, drawing 2 and losing 2 life. Eric taps all of his mana sources for Burnished Heart and passes. I play another Snow-Covered Mountain and cast Price of Glory to keep everyone honest. Tommy plays a Swamp and passes. Christian plays Anja in his main phase and plays a Swamp and passes. Eric draws and activates his Burnished Heart, sacrificing it to go and find 2 basics. He grabs 2 mountains and then plays a tap Barren Moor. I play a Snow-Covered Mountain and cast Beetleback Chief. He comes in, making 2 Goblin friends. And heading to combat, I hit Eric for 2. Tommy plays a tap Myriad Landscape and passes. At the end of turn, Eric activates Anja, discarding a card and then drawing 1. He doesn't get to untap her though, as the card he discarded didn't have Madness. Christian plays a Swamp and casts Buried Alive. He passes as he searches for what to put into his graveyard. Eric taps all but the Mind Stone to cast the Scorpion God. He's waiting for Christian to finish searching, and Christian reveals a Void Winnower, Vilis, and Razaketh. This seems like a good time as any for Eric to play a Bojuka Bog, and he does, exiling Christian's graveyard. I draw and play Nixos Shrine to Nyx. I then cast a Goblin Ringleader, and reveal the top 4, hitting only 1 Goblin, a Warren Instigator. I shuffle the rest and bottom them randomly, and I then move to combat, swinging the Ringleader and the Beetleback Chief at Christian. He doesn't block and takes 4, and I pass turn. Tommy taps out for a tap Nyx Lotus, and passes. At the end of turn, Christian once more activates his commander, discarding a card and drawing 1. Christian draws for turn and plays a Swamp. He activates Anja, discarding Archfiend of Spite, which does have Madness, and pays for its Madness cost. He then gets to untap Anja and draw a card, and with that done, he passes. Eric casts Talisman of Indulgence, and then activates the Scorpion God's ability to give one of my goblins a -1/-1 counter. It dies because of this, which lets Eric draw a card. We then see Lightning Greaves resolving, which go into the Scorpion God, and Eric then passes. For my turn, I play a Snow-Covered Mountain, and then play out Warren Instigator. I pay 2 to activate Nixos for 6 red mana, and use 4 of it for Krenko before passing to Tommy. Tommy casts Liliana of the Dark Realms, and uptakes her to find a swamp. He plays it for his land for turn, and he then taps the Lotus for 3 black mana and his new swamp to cast Yawgmoth. At the end of turn, Christian once again activates Anje and discards a card and draws one. Christian plays a mountain and swings his Archfiend of Spite at Liliana, taking her out as it connects. In his post-combat main phase, he then uses Bedevil to take out Krenko. He then casts Mausoleum Secrets with only 1 creature in his graveyard, and he goes to find a black card with a converted mana cost of 1 or less. He reveals Entomb and passes. Eric casts Nest of Scarabs in his main phase and activates the Scarab God again, taking out another one of my goblin tokens. He gets to draw and gains an insect token this time, and he then passes to me. I play Snow-Covered Mountain, and not really wanting to run Krenko out into immediate removal if I can't activate him, I go with Plan B and Chaos Warp a goblin token. I shuffle up and reveal a Spine Rock Knoll off the top, which comes in and lets me hide away a card. I then pass turn. Tommy draws and casts Liliana Vess. He downticks her to tutor for a card to the top of his library. He then taps a Lotus for 5 black mana, and he casts Dictate of Erebos. At the end of turn, Christian taps a swamp and loses it because of Price of Glory. He uses the black mana to cast Entomb and goes to his library. We then see him put into graveyard a Combustible Gearhulk. Christian draws and plays a swamp. He swings the Archfiend again, who's already experienced at taking out Liliana's, at Liliana Vess to do the same. In his post-combat main phase, he casts Victimize, sacrificing Anje to bring back a tapped Combustible Gearhulk and Flare of the Hatebound. The Flare sees both itself and the Gearhulk coming in from the graveyard, and triggers for both, with Christian dealing 4 to me and 6 to Eric. He then resolves the Gearhulk trigger and has Tommy decide which option will happen. Tommy lets him draw 3, and Christian then casts Shreds of Sanity, returning the Victimize and Entomb to hand, and then discards a card and exiles the Shreds. Eric moves the Greaves onto his insect token and pays 1 black for a Tainted Strike on the Scorpion God. He then swings his commander at Christian. In his post-combat main phase, Eric follows up with a Chandra's Ignition, which might I say is a spicy combo. This is the Scorpion God dealing 7 damage to every creature and player, and since it has Infect, deals the damage as either Infect counters to players or -1/-1 counters to creatures. Because of the -1/-1 counters on creatures, this means Eric will also draw a ton from each of the creatures dying and gain a boatload of insect tokens. This also means that Christian's taken 14 points of Infect damage and loses, and Eric then remembers to tap his commander for attacking and casts an Arcane Signet and passes. I play a Buried Ruin and cast Blasphemous Act. I then cast Krenko again and pass. At the end of turn, Eric returns a Scorpion God to his hand. Tommy plays a Cabal Coffers and then casts Balthar the Defiled. He taps the Nyx Lotus for 5 and uses 2 for Cabal Coffers, which makes 3. He now has 6 mana floating and he casts a Cavalier of Night. It comes in and he sacrifices Balthar, destroying Krenko. Eric recasts the Scorpion God and puts the Greaves onto his commander. He goes to combat and hits me for 6 commander damage. He then plays out Grafted Exoskeleton before passing turn. I cast Coat of Arms because that's the kind of game this is, and I pass. Tommy makes mana and casts Command the Dreadhorde. He brings back both Liliana's and my Beetleback Chief, losing 13 life. The goblins get pumped thanks to my Coat of Arms, because I'm such a nice guy. He then taps the Nyx Lotus for 10 black mana to cast a Death Renderer, which he then equips onto the Cavalier. He upticks Liliana the Dark Realms and downticks Liliana Vess, but delays them to save some time. He swings the Cavalier at Eric, who can't block, and takes the hit, and Tommy then passes to go and find a swamp for his hand and a card to the top of his library. Eric casts Kulrath Knight in his main phase and moves the Grafted Exoskeleton to it, and then the Greaves. He swings the Flying Infect Knight at Tommy for 5 in the air, which takes him out. I draw and reveal Reforged Soul at the top, making Eric and I discard our hands and draw a fresh 7. I then play Snow-Covered Mountain and play a Goblin Welder, and then the Goblin Crater Maker. I pay 1 to sacrifice it and blow up the exoskeleton. I then play a tap Fire Diamond and pass. Having now scripted this, I now realize we missed the sacrifice trigger from the exoskeleton, but thankfully it makes very little impact on the rest of the game. Eric plays a Dragonskull Summit and plays a Grim Poppet, who comes in with 3 -1/-1 counters on it. He removes all 3 of them to take out my Beetleback Chief, and then moves the Greaves over onto the Poppet, and moving to the combat, he swings his team at me. I block the Scorpion God and take the rest. He then plays a Sword of the Anime in his second main phase and passes. I draw and play a Goblin King. I play Bogart Shenanigans and pass to Eric. Eric plays a Smoldering Marsh, which comes in untapped, and gives the Goblin King a -1/-1 counter twice to take it out and draws a card. Plus he also gains some insect tokens. I deal 1 to Eric with the Shenanigans trigger, and he then plays out a Core Prowler. He puts the Sword of the Anime onto it, and then the Lightning Greaves, and swings in for the win with infect damage. Game review time. So this was probably one of the worst matchups I've ever played with Krenko. Having a Scorpion God directly below me, and a Yawgmoth taking his turn directly after mine pretty much meant that any of my goblins were basically dead as soon as I played them, unless I had a Lord out. And even then, the Lords pretty much had a target painted on their back from the get-go. The Chaos Warp of my own token was a bit of a loose play. I was hoping to flip into a Haste Enabler and start to get going through that, but unfortunately, as you saw, I hit a Spinerock Knoll, and, spoiler alert, I ended up hiding away a land. I think Christian's Anje deck was actually probably the most aggressive deck. He was binning a bunch of creatures, and had it not been a timely Bazooka Bog from Eric, I think we would have been in hot water. Eric, in the meantime, did a great job of flying under the radar, and was just building up his resources until he was able to play a huge turn with the Tainted Strike and the Chandra's Ignition. Chandra's Ignition is one of those cards that I keep talking about and thinking about and wanting to buy more of, and then I completely forget about it until I see how strong it is in one of these games. This worked beautifully with the Scorpion God, since it gave Eric tons of insect tokens, tons of card draw, and basically took out 1 player and almost 2 others for only 5 mana. Tommy unfortunately seemed to suffer from not drawing a lot of action. He had his Lilianas who were able to find him cards, but typically he'd only get those on his next turn, which was a bit too slow. Coupled with the fact that he didn't have any creatures to sacrifice to Yawgmoth to get the -1/-1 counters for his Crumbling Ashes, or the card draw, meant that he was falling farther and farther behind as the game went on. Please be sure to tune in every Monday and Thursday at 11 AM Eastern Standard Time for a guaranteed new video. You can also follow me on Twitter at MTGMudsta. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/MTGMudsta. And lastly, you can check me out when I stream at twitch.tv/MTGMudsta. This video is brought to you in support by my patrons. If you're looking for a way to help out the channel, please be sure to visit the link below. Thank you all for watching this video, and don't forget, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.